And because of the age.
Are you sick?
No, I am not sick.
Okay.
I still want to.
You don't want to get sick. I understand. Yes, I understand.
I'm trying to get over whatever I have, whatever anybody else or more.
Rich, you got a ranch candy?
I'm feeling very,
I have probably an extra.
I have an
pressure.
extra, this is a new one, you want it?
I do, I mean, I think I'm okay.
Yeah, I mean,
Just got feel like I'm
Famous
exposed.
last words.
Well, I mean, I had COVID in December, my whole
Right.
house was sick, and you know, this last week, and I.
Yeah.
That's,
I think I'm all right, thank you.
I know the last time we had COVID, I had an amount. So it's a good thing I had an amount.
Oh,
Remember
that's right,
that?
That's right, yeah.
Yeah.
Would everybody please rise for the pledge of allegiance? I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
It's a nice crowd. I guess we should hold budget hearings more often, even if it's a captive crowd. Okay, budget workshop. We're starting with the fire department. Hey, guys.
Hey, John.
So how do you want to do this, Larry?
They can come have a
Come on
seat
up,
there
guys. Get
and
yourself a microphone.
Katie will get things started.
Yeah.
The next can have much time.
Well, you're feeling fun about this.
Today is just kind of, that's a little
Okay, so I'll kind of run through
Fine.
the summary, and if there's questions or if you guys want
And-
to kind of chime in.
I tip my
Feel
hand
free.
that this is going to be for every department. You gave us sort of an actual for, I think, roughly an 8-month period.
Yes.
And when you give, maybe at the end of the presentation, you could throw in for each of them, whether multiplying that by 1.5 is actually representative of what might have been the actual for the year, or there's seasonality or other things that we're not seeing here. Because it is helpful to be able to look at, even if it's a hypothetical actual for this year, to compare it to what the next year's budget is.
Right. Right, yeah, so the actual column will be the actuals as of the date that I printed the report. So this would have been as of January 30th,
Okay.
the actuals. And I mean, I guess it depends on the type of account. If it's like a monthly billing account, then that would be.
Yeah, I know you're not going to be able to
correct.
dig down to. Let me ask you guys the question I was asking, which is, are your expenditures kind of roughly even throughout the year, or is there something like if I took DPW the wintertime, they might have a dramatic kick up? I know it doesn't work like this, but the increase in salt and sand or something in a period of time. I'm just trying to figure out whether the partial year that I've been given as an actual is reflective of what might have happened going forward. And I'm not going to hold you to it. It just gives me a little better way of looking at this on a global scale.
Depends.
And it's excluding CapEx, obviously.
Depends if that cold stuff come in and things break or
Okay.
things can change.
All right. It's fine.
We have certain items that come up through the year, like physicals.
Yeah.
Or tomorrow. So that's a large.
Okay. That's good.
15,
No, that's a good
expenditure that
example.
makes February look large.
Got it.
Right?
Okay.
And something else happens in the spring. We have to do all of our air pack maintenance, right? So that's a couple thousand. So those are the peaks.
Got it.
Perhaps a good way to ask it of each department is how do they think they are on schedule compared to.
Much better way to phrase it. Okay, that's fair. All right, anyway, let me not belabor the point anymore. Go ahead.
Okay, so the first line that there's a change is the personnel services line. And this is just reflective of the current year salaries. And then, so the request that's in here is in the past, there was a $3,030 line for a training officer, which you didn't hire, right? And you all kind of take on those responsibilities.
That's for now. Take it on until we can find somebody that's willing to take it on for us.
Okay.
Somebody that's qualified to take it on for us.
Okay, So wasn't the request to add that onto
Onto the chiefs, 'cause we're doing all the,
stipends?
we're doing the work together.
Okay. So that was the request on that line. And then on the travel and education line, there's a decrease in the request of $2,000. And that's just based on their current needs and trainings they've been attending and the past history. Insurance, there's an increase of $5,400, and that was covered in the budget overview last week. So that I think we budgeted at 9% until we get further information. And then there's also a cancer benefit insurance that went up, that usually goes up a little bit too. The utilities, we've actually been and this will actually kind of be recurring through the other departments. The utilities, we've seen a decrease in usage and costs to date so far. So on this line, we can decrease that by $1,500 and then both the repairs and maintenance of equipment and the maintenance of vehicles line, we're increasing both by $5,000 just based on the age of the vehicles and equipment and how many repairs that have been needed.
Is there a new fire engine scheduled in the capital budget in the next couple of years?
So the capital budget, as I recall, has a placeholder for 2025, 26, if I remember correctly. That's actually a topic that we're going to need to address this budget year, because the reality is, even though it may be scheduled for 25, 26, it needs to be ordered way earlier than that, like right now. And I know that they've been pushing for that, but without the board formally authorizing it, you can't obviously place the order. So that's going to be a topic that needs to be discussed. If you're going to commit to purchasing that truck, we'll probably push that to be approved this capital budget, even though the money won't be paid out for, probably 18 months or 2 years later, or more maybe. Yeah, more. So the long answer is yes, there's one in the budget. The short answer is you're going to be dealing with it this year, actually.
So you answered my question already about, which is good preemptive work, about the physicals, because I was going to ask, why is it, I don't know, something like $1,000, it's $437, but what you're telling me is it's low because they're happening next month, or this month? Tomorrow, okay, got it, okay. And let's see, line 410, fire prevention material, the actuals pretty low relative to what you're asking for. It's not a huge delta, but what's the story with that one?
That comes and goes with fire prevention stuff, booklets, hats, bringing people into fire prevention. We used to do a firefighter fill for the schools. I don't think we do that. That hasn't happened this year with all the COVID stuff.
And prevention usually after winter, springtime ramps up, we restock our supplies after fall and winter.
So that's really the answer. We look back at the prior 2 years, which were all, 8,300, 9,300.
Got it.
So,
Okay. Yeah, what the Irvington Boat Club lease, is it just that the payment doesn't come, or you? Yeah,
We're still waiting on the boat dock to be repaired by.
Got it.
So that's on.
So it's sitting on the
been
trailer.
hold for a long time.
Got it.
We're hoping, we don't want to let it go.
Yeah. Oh, so you're paying to hold?
No, I don't think we're paying for it.
We haven't paid, no.
no, so the situation is the dock was wiped out by a barge.
Yeah.
That broke away from the Tappan Zee Bridge construction.
Yep.
The dock has yet to be repaired. It's now, what, 5
Permit's
years?
been applied for.
Permit's been applied for.
They finally got a drawing that they want to build. It's a few loose ends.
Right.
That's why the building department is last.
Okay. I was much support too.
But But all this time wasn't spent in design and permits. A lot of it was spent in, I guess, some dispute with the insurance company and the contractor. And,
Yep.
You know.
It's out on our desk for a week.
Oh, yeah, no.
I'm not faulting anybody. I'm just, you're budgeting $5,700 and it shows 0 actual, so I was just trying to,
Yeah.
you're anticipating that it'll get fixed and you'll need to pick up the lease again. Okay.
If the permit wasn't already in the building department, we probably would have suggested that maybe they're not gonna hit this timeline, but maybe this coming fiscal year, they'll actually have a dock. And
Got it.
a usable dock. So, we'll see.
All right. That was, for me anyway, kind of everything. I don't know if anybody else has anything they want to throw in.
Matt, toward that end, it's being rebuilt so that it would be up to code for the fire to use it, right? Like, because it's not it's private property, right? It's the boat club.
It is, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
the intention is to continue the lease unless you've had a different conversation with them.
No, we haven't.
Yeah, I mean,
We just need it to be usable. It's not usable. You can't walk out there, you can't go out there, there's no power.
Right, and what I meant was when they rebuild it, will it be in a state that you guys can use it?
That's the plan.
Okay.
We hope.
You have there's a line, I guess it's 0100. I just need an explanation for something. You have a category of day laborer, and what exactly is that? I don't know who to ask that question of, but what's that cover?
That's 2-day guys that do work around the firehouse, maintain equipment, do errands, work on repairing things that they can repair. And just making everyday stuff happen.
They're the chief officer's right-hand person. And since we're at our regular jobs during the day,
Got
they
it.
run to town hall, see Larry, take heat from him, bring over POs, and stuff like that.
That's a good assignment.
Whatever it takes.
Okay. Anybody else have anything else?
I was just curious, like what kind of things are included in the various under the repairs and maintenance for equipment?
That's a 456.
Oh yeah, 456, yeah.
That's the computer stuff, all the computer for our fire calls, our maintenance of all the computers for that. The various is also
All the tools, the radios, air packs, all of our equipment that isn't the vehicle.
Thank you.
We good? Anybody else?
I'm good.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, thank you.
Good luck, guys. Yeah, we're saving up for him. I don't want to save my energy for him.
Theater.
Okay. You want to do the same routine? You give us the overview?
Sure. So theater is in an interesting spot because it's been closed. So these
Yeah,
mainly.
You're off the hook for prior year.
So our part-time labor and revenue budgets are assuming a reopening of September. If that doesn't happen, then the revenue and the part-time labor would probably, both of those numbers would come in lower. So it would net to 0. So for revenues, we are anticipating an increase of 40,000. On the personnel services line, it's an increase of 2,159, which is reflective of current year salaries. On the part-time labor line, there's an increase of 35,750. And Greg, I know you mentioned your like part-time labor plan. I don't know if you
Sure.
wanted to
Should I
jump
jump
in.
out?
Yeah, might as well.
So we've always wanted to be thought of as a very professional theater upstairs. We do a lot with very little. And we've talked about before we open, we really want people, too many people compare us to Tarrytown. We can't be Tarrytown, but we could still offer more staffing when somebody comes in to rent from us. So box office, ushers, front of house, and a tech. So all of that, what we've done is we've raised our rental rates. So if you come in, you rent from us, you're going to get these 5 staffers, but you're really paying for them. So that's why she's talking about, it'll come back to the revenue, it'll go into our revenue line, but we will pay those workers from this line.
Okay, sorry, just because
Yep.
I don't understand, like, can you explain the revenue? Is that all like basically rentals, or is there other stuff?
So we are a rental house, so revenue is rentals. So we try to rent every weekend. We've always been a very low rental house in Westchester. You could get this place for lower than any other place. Being closed for this long means I can jump back in and really raise the rates and really get into the playing field with other areas. So the fact that our rental rates will go up, anything somebody comes in and pays, that's revenue back to the village.
Okay.
The only time it is not is when the commission does a self-produce event. So like our All Shorts Irvington Film Festival, that's produced by the commission. The expenses are by the commission, and that money goes back into the commission pile themselves, just for self-production. Otherwise, all rentals go back to revenue.
Okay, so the 40,000, like, how many rentals is that?
So if we break it down, I can tell you on my sheet here. We were looking at it as if, I have this here. Performances. So we worked out with like 20, 36, 40, 49, it's almost 60 performances for the year is how many performances we could have. So I expect it to go up. I'm nervous coming in the first year back that I will not get every weekend filled. So that's why I said to Katie, let's go in under the 100,000. The year that we closed down, we were set to bring in 100 grand that year. But I said, let's go in under this first year so I can try to get all those people to come back, as well as new people too. And then I think that number will absolutely go up over that.
Yeah, thanks, very helpful.
Greg, can I ask a question? If September doesn't happen, do you have a plan for having other types of events that might generate revenue, like outside or, in the, you know?
Well, what we've been doing so far, they've been very low revenue. Like we've done our film. We're doing things just so people know that we still exist. Even in March, we're going to go to Mercy again and do our play festival, our short play festival. That's a free event because then we're getting into, do we have to rent from Mercy, things of that nature. We could do something to bring in revenue, but it's not going to bring in the same kind of revenue when you're just doing ticket sales versus somebody coming in and paying $3,000 to come in and rent the space out. It's a very different thing.
Those are commission events. When you go outside, but inside, he can rent it to people and charge them a lot more.
You have, you were talking about staffing, but there's some question of both of you. And that both the cost of staffing and the revenues, if you don't open at a certain point in time, would both drop sort of proportionally. But are custodial services an exception to that? In other words, there's got to be some maintenance upkeep that's
Correct, but it's not the same. So we're so different from like down here when the custodian comes in all the time. Ours is when there's an event, the custodian has to come in before the event, clean it for it, and then clean it after.
Yeah.
You'll notice our actuals this year, we're just having them come in and clean the bathroom so that the workers upstairs can go to a clean restroom right now. That's about all he's doing.
okay.
But that does change based on how many events are going on.
And then this is line 0200, I think, which is probably a new copier.
So this is equipment, this is, 0200 is any equipment purchase that falls outside of our capital projects. So a lot of our equipment for the theater is in a capital project. So this could be a new copier, it could be other things, any equipment that we're doing.
For some reason, I sort of flagged a copier and was wondering why you couldn't use the office ones, and maybe that's too inconvenient, which I get, or maybe you have a purpose. Is it in? Oh, it is in one of your lines. It's 200. It's in the summary. So the
I think
4,500
last year you got rid of the old copier.
Correct.
Got it.
So
And you use that for like playbills or stuff, or it's just general?
Right, anything that we're having a copy in our office, or we also, the box office has one, we have to run up all of our tickets. That all comes out of our copier as well.
Okay.
So Greg, how much lead time do you need to start renting? In other words, how much notice do we give you that it's going to open in September, that you can start actually renting in September?
So I'm already have people asking me for fall. I'm putting them on hold. I'm like, I cannot do that calendar yet. What I hope is by April, we will be at a certain point upstairs where I can say, okay, now I can really start to fill up the calendar from September on and letting these, Clock Tower wants to come back, Green PC wants back, so, and new people.
I was gonna
are
ask you
reaching
what
out.
kind of events you're anticipating.
Yeah,
So we can hope that it'll be the kinds of things that we saw before.
as well as other ones. I've had new people reaching out that are wanting to come in, which is great. For us, we want new people in because they're actually gonna pay more.
Right. Right. The old
Clock
people
Tower
are
and
used to the old
GTC
fees.
still get a discounted
Yeah.
rate, but anyone new coming in as a commercial rental or a nonprofit, both of those rates have gone up.
Thanks.
Ed was nodding.
Yes, well, he's
That's not
good,
even
he's
behind me.
good with your dates, I suspect.
We've talked about it.
Yeah,
We-
yeah, yeah.
We're gonna try very hard for even earlier than that, but
Yep.
September's a safe date.
Okay. Anybody else? No? Okay, thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you
Greg,
very much.
for all you've done and all the hard work.
Yeah,
Yeah, thanks.
I appreciate it. Yeah, we want to give you more by getting it open.
Yeah.
Thanks for taking me early. Good luck, everyone else.
Sorry, Ed. Well, that's what we need, Ed, in the background.
Balanced.
Should we start by saying this year is much better than last year?
Fearless. The report that we're issuing,
Thank
we're going to be releasing in a couple of days. Did you have the review of last year?
Oh, I remember the budget, because we realized during the
Thank
budget,
you.
there was all these one-off things.
Well, you never know with that building, but I assume that's capital, right? If there's a problem with the
Well,
line.
not the repairs.
The repairs come out of the
You're right, you're right,
funds,
you're
yeah.
right.
Yeah, that's the worst situation, Settling the library.
Okay.
Okay.
You're up.
So, speaking of last year's budget, I'll start off with that because I have the note at the bottom. That'll kind of lead into our fund balance appropriation. So last year, we appropriated 14,000 of fund balance, and that was in anticipation that part-time amounts may decrease, which didn't end up happening. So this year's budget, at this point, the appropriation we kept at 14,000 again this year. Thinking that maybe next year that will happen. The library fund balance as of 5/31/23 was about 244,000. So their fund balance was about 21% of their operating budget, which is considered very healthy. You just don't want to keep appropriating from fund balance year after year, then
Yep.
that will deplete it.
And what's the specific issue, the staffing issue that causes the, is it just that you haven't identified a permanent person or, that's causing the $14,000 part-time?
There was an increase in salary and hours last year for a part-timer. So I guess more turnover was
More turnover was
expected.
anticipated than as a first.
Okay.
So that's that piece. So the personnel services line, there's an increase of 5,000, which is reflective of current salaries. Longevity, $150 increase. Subscriptions, $200 increase based on subscription costs. Publicity and printing, there's a decrease of $590. And that's an addition of a newsletter for $270. And then the library app for $500 was able to be removed because that's now covered in the library contract. And the electronic bulletin board subscription for $360 was no longer needed. Membership dues, there's an increase of $300. Repairs and maintenance of office equipment, an increase of $330 for the new time time clock subscription. Custodial services, there's an increase of 2,000, and that's based on the cleaning contract. Repairs and maintenance of buildings, there's a 1,000 increase for landscaping and plantings. Utilities, we have a decrease of 5,000, and that's to adjust for usage and costs that we've been seeing so far. The state retirement is an increase of 10,900, and that's based on the state retirement rates. I'll just add, so this fund, it's separate from like building and theater and fire. So this fund will have its own like retirement, social security, and insurance recorded in here, while the others won't. Social security is an increase of 500, workers' comp is an increase of 200, life insurance 20, the hospital and medical insurance, although rates are increasing, a employee's spouse passed away, so that decreases the premium on that line. And then an increase of 2180 for dental insurance, someone added a policy. $30 for the vision policy, and then a decrease in the amount that needs to be transferred to debt service for the serial bond.
So my general impression is that most of the, or a substantial amount of the expenses are employee related or retirement or medical that relates
Yes.
to employees.
Yep.
And I guess as a secondary matter, it's probably utilities, so things of that sort.
Right.
The library has all that stuff in their budget, which the other groups are handled through the major.
Right.
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 Can you just clarify again? I don't want to harp on the $14,000, but I just want to remember from last year at this time, you asked for $14,000 for increased hours and salary for a worker.
Correct.
And you anticipated that that would be a one-time because there would be.
We anticipated there would probably be some turnover, and then we wouldn't.
And that hasn't.
And that has not happened.
And if there is turnover, does that all come directly off, or does that end up becoming expenses for retirement expenses or things like that?
It would not be retirement. It's not for full time, so it would not be retirement.
Thanks a lot.
I don't have a lot of questions, to be honest. Anybody else?
Well, we just did want to highlight.
Go ahead.
We just had, we've had a really great year, and Christina, who's our library assistant, who's the one that got the additional salary and hours, is the one that put this together for you. She's an amazing woman. But some of the things that I would like to highlight is our AV items that were circulated is 3 times the number it was last year, which is primarily due to movies, which are not online. These are the movies that people are actually taking out of the library. So I thought that was pretty stunning. Visits to the library increased 22% over last year. Our program attendance has gone up by 5%. Number of programs has gone up by 4%. Our Facebook followers are up 7%, and our Instagram followers are up 12%. We did a community survey in preparation for our strategic plan, which we will be presenting to you. We had 300 people respond, which our consultant felt was an excellent response rate. And out of those 300 people, 44 of them wanted an adult board game night, which we started, and that's monthly, and it has attendance usually around 10 to 12 people. So that's been really great. We also added knitting classes. We have Linda, our young adult librarian, has come up with some amazing programs. So she started knitting for the teens, and then we also have a drop-in group on Saturdays, Needles at Noon, and that they were in local history for a little bit, and we usually have at least 12 or 15 people.
They outgrew the space.
They outgrew the space, so they're in the
Yeah.
program room, and we just make sure we can adjust the programs to make sure they have time. And they also have an instructor who comes in twice a month, and that pulls in even more people. One of the highlights of Linda's programs was last January's Navigating College Admissions, which was held on Zoom. It had over 150 attendees, of which 120 stayed an additional 40 minutes past the end of the presentation. And so she had them return. It's called Stand Out for College. She's had them return throughout the year, addressing the latest changes with the admissions process. So that's something I think should be highlighted. People are really excited about that. We had our first TEDx talk, and that drew 60 people in. So also another big one was our River Towns Repair Cafe. We had about 70 or 75 people.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, so we do, and of course, when you come to the kids, like Touch a Truck, you know, some of the, you know, the sleepover and our summer reading program is also really strongly attended. So we also do a lot with a small budget.
Can I ask, this is more an administrative question, how do you allocate the program, which I assume you're referring to the big room that's there? In other words, is it sort of first come, first serve, or it's your programs? And I have no agenda here, that's just more curiosity.
Well, basically our programs, you know, take precedent, but obviously if somebody comes in and rents the room before we schedule the program, they don't get booted out.
Right.
But, you know, basically, but there are some programs, a lot of these programs are recurrent. I mean, the adult board game night is the first Thursday of the month. The music, the children's programs have a set schedule. So, I mean, there are a lot of things that are pretty firmly on there. But then other than that, it's the room available at any time. It's also available for rental to nonprofit organizations when we are closed. The library doesn't have to be during library hours.
And we charge $65
for that. And we do make the room available for village committees. So the Green Policy Task Force, for example, has their monthly meeting at the library. The equity inclusion folks have been in the Tiffany room, but if that expands into the space, then we will.
Oh, did you want to talk or just mention how most of your programs are funded by the 501c3 and the trust and agency account through the Friends of the Library?
That is true. So most of the programs themselves, so we the money that we need for it, for special music concerts, for example, we have the jazz trio, 23rd of December, playing music in the Charles Brown Christmas special. That was funded by the Fred Trustees, which is lovely. And so yeah, our programming is not, we do not use anything from our operating budget.
And how does that, is that when the friends are putting money into the library, how's that reflected on this, or is it just not there?
It wouldn't be
It's paid
reflected
separate?
here because it's in the
It's in the
separate
trust and agency
fund.
account if there is one. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
But the friends can pay too, so.
Yeah.
But usually what they do is they give me a check, and then I pay the vendors directly.
We also do have some cost saving measures that we wanted to mention. Going forward, our chiller expenses are going to be shared with workforce housing group. There's always just a rumor that the library was totally responsible for the chiller expenses, and we looked into it and there was nothing in writing. So we went back to workforce and they did a load analysis and determined that we'll be responsible for 60%. We have the whole first floor, and we're responsible for 40%, which is the front of us in the back units have units. So we haven't had any repairs done yet, but going forward, that will be one of the cost saving measures. We're also investigating some of our IT services from the Westchester Library System to the company that's used by the village. So Rosemary has just gotten some initial cost expenses. That equipment cost would be about $29,000, but then our yearly expenses would be cut almost in half from about $30,000 to $15,000 a year. So that would be reflective going forward. We are meeting with someone tomorrow who is an retired IT librarian about a possible board position, and we're hoping that he'll be able to advise us. So we're very hopeful about
Great.
that.
Well, he had some, what looked to be impressive credentials.
Yes,
so hopefully that
yes, he
works
did.
out.
So we're meeting with him tomorrow at 1:30. So we also would like to replace our VAV controllers and the thermostats in our HVAC system because they don't work. And the library gets overheated and we wind up opening up windows,
Is that
slow things down.
It would be capital.
That's fine, I don't mind hearing
Oh,
about
no,
it.
no,
It's
that's
okay.
fine because,
Right.
Yeah.
So
That was a good segue, I think, into what you're gonna say.
So we talked with Katie because we just did our major bathroom renovation with the bond, and but we're proposing that we pay for the that expense, which is about will be around $125,000 from our fund balance, which is currently at about $244,000. So we won't have to request a bond. And the last thing that the library is paying for is the restoration and paint finish in the Tiffany reading room from the damage that was done when we had to have the that's about $24,000, and we're taking that from our trustee account, which is T92, which has probably about $3,500 or so left over from the original Tiffany room unbalanced T account, which got transferred into T92 some years ago. We currently have about $89,000 in that account. We just received a request for about $10,000. So it was 70, it's up about $84,000.
Great, thank you.
Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you. Great.
Well, we got Ed now, I don't know what's gonna happen.
I think there's a new agency that wants to come in.
On the budget? Okay, I think one more than probably.
Okay, so, in building department, we actually have a decrease to the tax levy, which is, good news.
And you can stay.
Why is the guy only one that's fund balance neutral last?
Save the best for last.
That's right, we need to.
I
get
will
news
fix
at
this
the end.
next year, I'll be just like everybody else.
So between building permit revenue, electrical permit revenue, and plumbing permit revenue, we have an increase of about 30,000. And in expenses, it's the increase for current year salaries, which is a little over 10,000. An increase of 260 for increased training costs, and an increase of 2,600 for increased maintenance costs for the copier and the scanner lease.
And were you projecting an increase in the permits?
There's an increase in permits. If you take out the extraordinaries, where I think our revenues this year are in the 670 range.
So as of the 30th, when I printed this, your revenues were at about 686,000 for building permits, plus another 27 in electrical and plumbing
Right.
permits.
And our projected without extraordinaries was 480,000 something.
I know, I remember you were very conservative in your estimates.
Yeah.
That's why I was surprised that it was an increase, so.
So the increase was to cover some costs, And if you take out the extraordinaries from this past year,
Yeah.
it fits into an average of 20 years to be less than $500,000. So I felt comfortable doing that. The extraordinaries are about $200,000 a year in revenues versus not. So we'll be over 750 this year, easy. So it'll be about $250,000 extra. We anticipate that the extraordinaries were about $230,000 this year. So it really does work out still in a plus manner.
So these numbers drop precipitously from when you did this, which is the end of January, till the end of the fiscal year? Because if you just did multiply it by 1.5, you're over $1 million in revenues.
Yeah, so we had two extraordinaries.
Put differently, are you,
Now we're-
as I said
we're
earlier, are you
$300,000.
sandbagging me for?
I'm actually pretty good at this.
I believe you are. I believe you
So
are.
we had $300,000 this year in extraordinaries. We're expecting about $210,000 in the next fiscal year. Some of that revenues may come early, and we ask you to carry the revenues to next year's, only because the one big company that's coming in likes to pay their bills up front.
Got it.
Instead of when I like collecting when we give them something.
Yep.
So it's a little different. So the conversation about next year's budget is easy. Conversation about the 25-26 budget is not so easy. There's no identifiable extraordinary revenue sources coming in.
Yep.
There's none in the pipeline. So as I know you want to fine tune this one.
Yeah.
I'm telling you right now, revenues in the 2025-26 year will be,
500?
yeah, they'll be what we're asking for. We'll make sure you can't go and drag money out of people. It's whatever comes in.
Yeah.
We're a reactionary. We don't go out. We can't fundraise.
I got
we
it.
can't
Advertise.
we have an advertisement. It's called Stop and Stare. We drive around, stare at people. They come to permits. It's a unique process. No other department uses it. We can go over each line item for additional costs.
So tell me about what looks like legal fees, 437.
Yeah.
You're
So the
projecting
legal
to
fees.
drop significantly.
Yeah, the
Right.
legal fees
From actual.
is mostly somehow we had dumped onto that budget item my
The,
reciprocity and my postage, which shouldn't have been there.
Got it.
So if you move those line items to the proper spots, we're in budget. It's just a matter of rectifying those.
Yeah, it's, the whole line item is professional fees.
Got it.
For whatever reason, the
Oh,
Some
the
product- my
cost
computer
of this
system.
building software. was
Got it.
being charged.
Okay.
And that was supposed to be in the one we just raised, repair maintenance of office equipment, because that's our computer. That's our computer software. Now, also in 2025-26 budget year, right now, our new system has been paid for a grant for 3 years. That's a $15,000 bill coming on to us as well. So into the 2015-26 year, you're gonna see an increase in the budget of $15,000, just because you don't see that now. So we have a payout left for the reciprocity system, and then the new system is free from another 2 fiscal years.
So putting aside sort of extraordinary projects that might goose up your revenues, is there, does the direction of the interest rate, which might drive people to either build or not build, in your opinion, influence the revenues you get? So if rates go down, for example.
So what's interesting is this, up until September, actually October, November, it was all big projects, $3 million, buy a $2 million house, or a $5 million house. And that was going on for quite a while. And smalls were just about equal in dollar amount in permit revenues. And the smalls are disappearing. So, but the bigs are coming back. We've got quite a few. You can't see those because, someone sells, someone moves out, someone moves in. When you buy a $2 million house, you don't put $100,000 into it, you put $500,000 into it. When you buy an $800,000 house, you only put $200,000 in our revenues are based on cost of construction. So it's balancing revenues, but I'm not sure if it's gonna stay equal in dollars, large projects and small projects.
But a traditional cycle would tell you that with interest rates higher, your building activity is getting lower, right?
Yeah, it's,
But you know what's going on in the world, that hasn't slowed down the housing market.
yeah, that's true.
You know,
It's not here.
so it may,
Yeah.
you know, but.
Well, I was hoping if rates go down, it might, even add fuel to the fire, if you will.
You gotta understand though, our housing stock is our growth. We have no vacant land.
Yeah.
The vacant land, is hard to come by. You know, the good lots are the really bad lots. We have a few that they're building on and they're yelling at us, or Larry had to sit in a meeting. We can't build it, it's flooding all the time. It's, well, that's why it was on the market for 12 years.
Yeah.
You know, it's one, yeah, it suffers when you tell them you got what you bought, not what you thought. You know, sorry, Larry. So all we have are these very big lots that probably won't bring in the revenue to building department. Probably really don't want that revenue anyway. That's all we have left.
Yeah.
You know, 3040, it's been coming back and forth now since 2015. Its original approval was 2016. You know, let's hope in March they start.
I mean, I would also think that interest rates, if you're buying a $2 million house or a $3 million house and pouring a lot of money into it, you're probably not borrowing that money to do it.
Probably more
So I don't think your interest rates are gonna affect that.
Yeah,
So-
and I think the lack of developable land also. Everything needs a variance now. It's we can have that conversation, you know, long down the road, but nothing is compliant existing, and they're asking for more.
Anything else you want to tell me about, I guess, the expense side, because we talked about the revenue.
So the expense side,
And
you did
and if you can
expenses
do
on
it,
the
people-
vehicles because
yeah.
we had a 4-year-old vehicle and a 3-year-old vehicle. Well, 4-year-old's out of warranty in the next annual cycle. We were ready for tires on it. So you didn't see bills for the vehicles.
Yeah.
The office equipment is a miscalculation in the professional line item.
And how about, if you can, and maybe this isn't the place to do it, talk about any anticipated personnel changes, ups or downs, or?
No,
Well, let's put it this way, you got any wish lists?
So Larry and I discussed, we're having, not a terrible time, but we're having trouble with the computer system, migrating the new information in. And we talked about hiring a part-time clerk, about $30,000 worth. We also talked about, not putting it on here, but taking it from one of the grants we received for the computer system. There's, at the end of the day, there's $60,000 approximately left in the grant that we got the computer system with. And we most likely will be coming back. We have to resolve a very large problem with the computer system used, the GIS system from the county, which is it's smaller in number of dwelling units, but it's merging everything together. So the condos, the co-ops, multiple dwellings on one parcel are all being merged into one, where we didn't have that before. Greenberg has been refusing to give their GIS documents. We finally got to somebody in Greenberg where they're doing interesting conversations all day long. We're working it out. Once we get past that, then we'll know where we're at. Can't migrate the stuff in until we get the parcels correct, otherwise they'll all merge. And, you know, searches in the future will be difficult. Right now we have a very unique system where you type in the address and it brings you up everything on that parcel. We're going to go to something that now merges into a larger parcel, and the next stuff will take years to get back out. So we're struggling with turning the system on for the, this goes to my email I sent you this morning, turning on the system to do the board approvals until we get it right. So we're a little in transition still on that. It's frustrating because, you know, everything's working right, everything was going right, and then we turned it on and said they're gonna fix it, and then River said they're not doing it. You know.
Well, if you're really running into problems with them again, come.
Yeah, no,
I make a few phone calls. I'm sure you do, but it never hurts to go in at 2 levels, so.
Yeah, no, my father was a tennis champion for 37 years.
Okay.
So I just start Actually, what I did is I cut them off, getting out reports, and they're cooperating much better now. The new system, I can't turn on the report module because it would give the report and that they can't read. They don't even understand why I'm asking for the stuff. So once I explained that to them last week, actually the report went away. Once I explained to them that you're not going to get the report you're used to seeing unless you give me the data that you gave me in 2013 to turn on the new system. So it was actually, it's in their best interest to give the data that they gave me in 2013 updated. But thank you for the offer.
No problem.
So I thought I'd destroy it.
Yeah, I know.
So from a staffing standpoint, I mean, outside of the grant that Ed spoke about, I don't think there's.
No.
Okay.
So that grant, that money left over in the grant, that can be used for salary for an employee?
We can use it any way we want,
Well, it has to be technically energy.
related to the code changeover. and the
Right,
transition,
process.
the software changeover.
Does that decrease the number of years that we'll get to pay for it, or now separate?
No. It was all increased.
That's a good grant.
To us, it was actually
Nightmare, basically. Just the ones holding about it.
Anybody else? Any questions for Ed? All right. You're out by 8, before 8. Thank you.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Ed.
Ed.
Yeah, thank you.
And for kibitzing on everybody else's presentation. I like the nods or the yeses and the nos from the back.
Well, you said there, poor Greg, you know, he hasn't had a place since COVID.
I know,
And he feels so
And I know you're working hard to get that thing done, pushing people, so. I
Yeah, no,
appreciate that.
my goal is to get that by March, understand, but I'm good understanding what's going on.
Yeah.
But it'll,
Well, that'll at least give him the go or no-go, whether he starts looking out into the future.
yeah, so our plan is the end of March to have a conversation. We did things much better than the senior center. The equipment's already ready to order, actually, where we took 3 months to get the equipment ordered down at the senior center. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks,
Ed.
Ed. Yeah.
All right, let's scroll to the right page here. Next, we're almost ready for you. Give me 2 more things. to
I
get
do
ready.
have one
Oh,
quick
go ahead.
other budget update, which
Go ahead.
is good news. So in my original budget overview, the interest earnings was projected on interest rates going down to about 2.5%. We did invest in a CD at 5%, and all of the revenue for that would get recognized in next year's budget. So that actually allows us to increase our interest earnings by 522,000 opposed to the original 200,000.
Oh,
that'll
that's
help.
That's a lot of
Yeah.
money.
Yeah,
That's a big chunk of what the deficit was.
it is. So
I'm surprised you didn't save that for another day.
I should have, right? And then also I looked at workers' comp, and they're not going to give us an indication until the middle of March, which is right before we need the tentative budget. So I put in a $40,000 placeholder for that because our current rates are based on salaries from 2 years ago.
Yep.
So with those 2 things added in, our original excess of the tax levy was about 428,000, and now it's down to about 142,500.
Great. Okay.
Those are 2 very different conversations.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, we're moving on to announcements. Checks over 25,000. So we got one for $37,306.81 to Borelli Mechanical, which was for the Senior Center HVAC project, and Pacific Trans Global Construction, which was for the police bathroom renovations, and South Astor Street handrail installation, $29,919.88. I think that's it, right? And now we are announcing a public hearing to consider a local law amending the village code to limit ARB review of solar panels developments requiring HOA approval and rear structures. That will be Wednesday, February 28th, 2024 at 7 p.m. The changes in the law are posted, so they were posted with the agenda agenda. I think that's all I have to do, yes? Okay,
Are we,
all right, I'll make a motion to hold the public hearing.
second?
All in favor?
Aye.
I didn't ask this.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so, Larry knows about this, but, River Arts Music Tour is officially coming back to Irvington on Saturday, June 1st, the rain date is Sunday, June 2nd. It's going to be back in front of Main Street School on the Main Street facing side, right there, that little area that's really nice for events. And, sometime in the next, I guess, month or so, there'll be a website will open bands can apply to be, and the River Arts isn't all the river towns up and down, but Irvington was historically underrepresented, and they came to me 2 years ago to see about expanding in Irvington, and this location is kind of like the big, like central Irvington location. So,
That's great.
yeah, so I just wanted to know it's June 1st, rain date June 2nd.
So we have better bands than we had the last couple.
Oh, definitely, yeah. Very good, Larry.
Okay, correspondence, I guess we have none, I'm assuming, because I don't see any of the, yes, okay. Consent agenda.
Public comment?
Public comment.
Oh, sorry, I'm not skipping over public comment. Your turn, you're, okay, you're saving it up, no problem. Okay, now, if there's, since
Was
there's
anyone
no,
at home?
thank you.
Sorry.
No, that's good.
No, I
That's
will go
good.
to Trent.
At the consent agenda, we are approving the minutes of the village board from January 16th, special meeting January 19th, out-of-town travel for the clerk treasurer, and appointment of personnel in recreation and parks department, all of which is posted, and I will make a motion to approve all of those. Anybody want to second that? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, next up is approval of a memorandum of agreement with the CSEA, Local 1000, perhaps me, AFL-CIO, and this is their contract from June 1, 23 to May 31, 25, I think it is, and contains various adjustments to salary, among other things. Did I get, oh, did I screw that up? Yes, it's 26, forgive me.
Yeah.
It's 26, I can't read my own handwriting, sorry about that. Thank you. And the stipulation of agreement is attached, so I will make a motion to,
I can quickly, if you'd like, I'll just
Sure.
quickly summarize it.
Go ahead.
It's fairly straightforward, so, as you said, it's a 3-year agreement. The salary increases that were provided for were 2.5% in the first year, 3.5% in the second, and 3.5% in the third. There is also a lot of language to do not much of anything that deals with some titles that were kind of latent and unused titles in the contract, so those titles have been removed. We also just again clarified some sections in the contract that related to personnel in the Parks Department. So real minor housekeeping stuff, but it took a few lines to write that. There's some changes in the longevity amounts that the members receive, not drastic. And we incorporated Juneteenth, even though the village had already done it unilaterally at the time, but we incorporated it into the contract language.
okay, got it. The motion is resolved to approve a memorandum of agreement dated December 20, 2023, in settlement of a collective bargaining agreement with the Irvington Civil Service Employees Association, Inc., Local 1000, AFSCME, AFL-CIO, Local 860, Village of Irving unit with a term of June 1, 2023 to May 31, 2026. So that's my motion. Anybody want a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Next up is the creation of a facilities planning committee. The board has been having conversations about the follow-up to the defeat of the referendum to borrow to rebuild the firehouse and create some offices, executive offices, and various other facilities there. And what we have decided to do is create a committee tasked with gaining an understanding of the village operations, assessing the adequacy of current facilities to perform village operations, and if facilities inadequate, proposing either rebuilding at the existing location or a viable or alternate location. So basically, we are breaking the process into two because it's a rather substantial job, and we're expanding the coverage with respect to, it'll include all village facilities. More than likely, the focus will be on the firehouse, village hall, and the DPW, but we're hoping that this committee, which will have the support of village staff and certainly this board, will be able to come back and at least confirm that either we should rebuild these buildings in their present location or propose alternate locations. And then we will take the next step, which is, once we know where they should be built, we will then look at designing and financing them. Given the magnitude of all of these projects, it's not likely that they'll all be done together, but at least we'll have a plan going forward and be able to phase them in. Anybody else want to add anything with regard to this? And what we're doing tonight is approving the charter. We are going to seek members as a follow-up. There will be an announcement going up in the next day or so that'll be issued via the village email blast, I guess. So there'll be an opportunity, if you're interested in this committee, to join the committee. I have plenty of names from people who have already, as we've been discussing it, submitted their names. So we're looking forward to getting this committee started and appointing members. And then we'll see where we go with this. So with that, actually, like I said, does anybody else want to add anything on this particular subject? No? Okay. Go ahead, please.
No, I was just gonna say, I think one thing also, the intention is to make the knowledge and expertise and information from the village available to the committee. So much work has been done already, going back decades, and that would be, hopefully help the committee, to find out what more information it needs and what information it has.
Absolutely, yeah. Clearly that helps in two ways. One, we don't want them to reinvent the wheel that we've already worked on. On the other hand, if they can find a new approach, new location, and there are not sort of inherent defects in that, and I'm sure the committee will figure that out in advance, then that's great. Since this is posted, do I need to read the entire charter, or can I just adopt what's been submitted?
I don't think you need to read it.
Okay,
out loud.
then I will make a thank you.
Oh, sorry, did I say that out loud? I was like, oh, thank goodness, no, I'm kidding.
I'm not ashamed to say.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Just counting first.
Yeah.
I'm kidding.
I like to hear my own voice. Okay, then resolve to create a facilities planning committee with, using the charter that was set forth in the agenda, which has a section on assignment and deliverables, factors that may be considered, and certain operating rules. And as I said earlier, the members we will solicit later, but that is my motion. Anybody want a second?
Second.
Oh, okay, and all in favor?
Aye.
All right. Next up is approval of an agreement with the Irvington Historical Society. I got the gist of this, Larry, but you want to give us the 2-minute version?
Yeah, so this is an agreement that is seeking to address two needs, one on the side of the Historic Society, one on the side of the village. So you'll remember several months ago, the Historic Society approached the village with a request for assistance with some issues with the building, and while you were sympathetic to that, turns out, the police department was in need of installing some equipment to assist with their camera project that had been previously approved as a capital project. So their location on Main Street was ideal for where these cameras were to be installed and the equipment was needed. So with that, a simple agreement was drafted by our village attorney. The Historic Society is comfortable with the equipment that's being installed. We met with their IT person and our security people, and everyone's on the same page. So that's what this agreement reflects: a payment of $16,000 one time in exchange for the use of essentially their internet and their building. Although I mean it's actually the village's building, but they lease it on a triple net lease basis, so it's theirs.
Great. Okay, I'll make a motion resolved to approve an agreement with the Irvington Historical Society and to authorize the village administrator to execute said agreement. And that agreement has just been summarized by our village administrator. That's a motion. Anybody second that? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Volunteer appointments. So I will just read the resolution. Resolved to appoint the following village board volunteer committee members: Rec and Parks member Beth Proper, term expires 2027. Tree Preservation Commission member Jill McClure, term expires 2026. Further resolved to appoint the following ad hoc volunteer committee members with a term to expire December 2024. Beautification Committee member Sarah Ostrower, and Irvington Woods Committee member Maxwell Carpenter. Consider that my motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Acceptance of Village Justice Court report. Do you want to give us a little highlight or?
Sure. So this audit is usually conducted during the same time as our financial statement audit by the accounting firm. The Justice Court has its own audit report. This is on a cash basis. So any money that they collect, that gets recorded as revenue in the village operating budget, and then the state takes a piece of that. So this report is pretty much just showing the cash balances at the end of May 31st, 2023, and it was a clean opinion.
Great. Okay. My motion is resolved to.
Quick question.
Sure.
So in the past, for the village, there's sometimes a report section that's addressed to us about
Yes.
suggestions for improvements, or is there
Yes.
anything like that in this report?
So that you actually got
think
that
that was in the original
before
audit,
this. They issued this audit report.
Okay.
So in the I think the
In the
last
original
two
report?
comments covered
More
the
related to
Justice Court.
Yeah, one, there was a delay in 1 month of sending fees to the state, I think it was.
I think, yeah, the report that they had to send, I think it was one day
Right.
late for the
Right.
first time
Yeah,
ever.
that's right. It was
I
a
have it at
report,
home,
not
I'll
the
review
funds.
it. I gotta
Okay.
do some stuff.
Okay. Anybody else? No?
Nope.
Okay, my motion is resolved to accept the annual Justice Court report issued by PKF O'Connor Davies LLP for the 2022-2023 fiscal year. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Issuance of a mobile vendor's permit. Let's see.
Formerly known as a peddler's license.
Yes.
Do you want to talk about this, or shall I just read it?
Yeah, I mean, it's a mobile food truck operation. It's not it's not an ice cream truck. So, and I mean, I'm not going to list their menu here, but
I got it.
it's sandwiches and
Okay.
cheesesteaks, you know, that kind of thing.
And basically, you're not really passing on the food or the menu. It's more, they need a permit to operate the business in Irvington.
Yes, and the only requirement that we have, well, we have requirements in our code,
Yeah.
so there's places where they can park or not
Sure.
park and all that. But in terms of issuing the permit, really, we just make sure they have a health department, Westchester County or a valid health department permit, which they do.
Okay. My motion is resolved to approve the issuance of a mobile vendor's permit to Delicious Bites food truck to operate a food truck throughout the village for a term of 1 year from the date of issuance for a permit fee of $100 pursuant to chapter 155 of the village code. Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, reports of boards, standing committees, and officers, trustee liaison. Do you want to go first?
Sure, yeah. So I have a short report from Ed in the building department. I think he gave some of this already, but just quickly, so the planning board continues to be busy, like Ed mentioned earlier. They're working on some bugs with the GIS system, and that's the last step they need before they can activate the board meeting module. And then finally, they're working on their annual state report, which is due April 1st.
No report.
So the theater and library were here. This is their
So you got
report.
it all, okay.
But I did want to mention that on March 7th, which is a Thursday night, at 6 o'clock at the Tarrytown Recreation Center, the Senior Citizen Center, there's going to be the first of the public outreach events relating to the state plan for the Route 9 corridor. So that's going to be an opportunity for people to come and, express to the engineers, what they want to see and, it's the first opportunity for public comment. So anyone who's interested in like how Route 9 is going to change or not change, that's 6 o'clock on March 7th at the Tarrytown Recreation Center in the Senior Citizen.
Thank you.
I don't have a report, but I do want to say that we should congratulate Gina Marr and the girls basketball team, but for Gina's 800th career
Yes, that's
win,
pretty remarkable.
which is remarkable, and her assistant coaches, but we will be honoring her. So, but I don't want to let the week go by without saying, how proud we are of
Yeah,
that
it's pretty amazing.
accomplishment.
I was trying to figure out how many wins she had when I was last mayor, and probably in the 400 or 500 number, so this is astounding.
Which was a lot then, right?
Yeah. Okay, Village.
Yeah, just a quick point that today we found out that the heavy rainstorm that happened on September 29th and 30th, some may remember that, was actually reached the threshold to become a declared disaster for the president. And
You think that's a good thing, but it is.
it is, well, I mean, it happened already, so
Yeah.
can't do anything about that.
Yes, that's right.
So, but that allows us to apply for some assistance. In reality, and Katie just filed the application today, we didn't have a lot of damage, fortunately. I think I reported that back then. But we did have a response, and we did have overtime and some equipment being used, so it's probably $10,000 or less, approximately. So
That's about 1/14 of what we need to knock out for next year. So every little bit helps.
Okay, a village quick treasurer's report?
No report.
No report. Okay. Public comment again, if anybody wants to talk, anybody online or here? No? Okay. Action items, we'll probably get some, but I'm gonna make a motion that we go to executive session. Can I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.